It's a playoff game. It's the Knicks. It's the Heat. Don't you think it's possible that maybe the New York City fans might get a little bit rowdy? Don't you think it's possible that the New York City fans are going to hurl any and every insult at you because, quite frankly, they think they can? Gang, that right there was Dwayne Wade leaving Madison Square Garden. Now, guys, I want you to know right now before we get into this video that this right here is not going to be any pot shots to Dwayne Wade or anything like that. This is going to be kind of a follow-up that I quite frankly did not expect to make to the video that I made the other day on Dwayne Wade saying that he wanted to leave Florida over their laws. And, of course, I'll link that video in the description box. Now, guys, I talked about a few things in that video, but I was trying to kind of hint at the possibility that maybe if Dwayne Wade had stayed in Florida, I didn't think anyone would care, especially him living in a gated community. Now, guys, you know my stances on this. I'm not okay with transitioning kids because most kids obviously don't even understand what they're doing, especially at a very young age. And, of course, the data shows that most young males, even young females, they kind of tend to grow out of this sort of gender stuff before they're 18 years old. You ain't got to put them on puberty blockers or anything like that. As a matter of fact, the studies, the science that we have shows that most young kids, especially young males, they just end up turning gay at later on point in time in life. So there's no need to actually transition these kids or do any of these procedures. I'm very, very much against doing these procedures on these kids. Now, if you're like 18, 19, 20 years old and you've already made up your mind, which, by the way, I would advise you be older. There's a reason why we say in the South that if you have to be 18 years old to vote, then maybe you should be 25 years old to marry. There's a reason why we say that down here, because you're obviously not mature enough to actually make decisions on your own that are actually sound. So in that case there, if you want to do that, then okay, that is your decision. Just know that, just know that that's your decision at that point in time. But the fact of the matter is, doing this to kids is obviously not right. But the thing is this right here. In that video, I talked about the fact that people in the state of Florida would more than likely not care, especially those who live in his community would not care about his decision to do this because chances are they probably are in league with him. I mean, as far as like mindset, as far as the woke virtue signaling and all that stuff is going on, so they probably really and truly don't care. I even assert that people in the state of Florida, those who don't live in those gated communities, are probably not going to say anything to him about it, at least on the street or anything, because they also know that this man helped get them 3 NBA Finals rings. However, I did, say that I felt that if he moved somewhere like, say, California or one of the suburban communities, he'd probably be okay. But once you get out amongst the plebs, especially in a known mean city like New York City, which is actually kind of surprising to me because New York City is very, very blue, that you may find some backlash then. Now, guys, you're going to hear me say this again throughout this entire video. I'm not doing this to bash D. Wade. I actually like D. Wade as a person. I think that D. Wade has kind of been manipulated, and I think he's kind of sort of, how do I say, it's almost, it feels to me like maybe he's being controlled. As a matter of fact, Dwayne Wade, back when I did watch basketball a little bit more often, Dwayne Wade was actually one of my favorite players. I was never a Miami Heat fan. The only time I actually thought down the Heat was when LeBron joined, but I'm pretty sure you guys know that I've made a lot of videos on LeBron. And, of course, that was when he was going through his whole bad boy thing, and I don't know what the hell ended up happening. It makes me almost think maybe he's controlled too, but still at the same time, though, I don't say this stuff right here to beat up on D-Wade, but let me go ahead and say this really quick before we go to the next point. Sometimes fans will use something like this against you as a bit of a weapon. It's almost like they're picking up a stick to use it at you, and obviously you're in New York City. Now, I'm not going to sit here and bash the fans in New York because I know fan bases that do stuff that say very, very mean, nasty things. I mean, dude, man, my own football team says some extremely nasty stuff. At least the fan base does on Twitter. I know other fan bases that, quite frankly, are delusional, and I know that there are fans out there, obviously fans from much, much larger cities on the East Coast, they have a tendency to get a little bit rougher, a little bit rowdier, and they have a tendency to get a little bit nastier, and they bring up some very, very personal stuff. So I'm just here to let you guys know that regardless of where D-Wade goes, it's very, very possible that the state that he is in now, the state of Florida, while he may not agree with the laws in that state, is probably the safest state for him when it comes to dealing with people on an interpersonal level. Now, I understand he went to a basketball game. He went to go see his alma mater, his team, the franchise he played for. play in a playoff game. But still, at the same exact time, this right here is New York City, and this right here is the New York City fans. So, what do you expect? Maybe D Wade himself even expected it. I'm just saying. Now, gang, when I say mean city like New York, I don't mean that in a bad, negative way. I really and truly don't. I've been to New York City twice in my life, had fun each time. I have friends of mine who are New Yorkers. I have men that I serve with that are from upstate and New York City. Still keep a good relationship, all that stuff there. But even they will tell you that NYC is a very, very mean, hostile place if you catch it on the race. It's just the way it is. All big cities are like that. Miami, to a certain extent, even with the relaxed environment there, of course, it can be that way. Chicago can be that way. All the major large cities in America can actually be that way. It's just the way that it is. Street life. It's just the personality of those areas. Now, it does surprise me, though, that in New York City that a group of people would actually crowd around him and say the things they did, which, by the way, are absolutely true. He obviously did transition his child. We can talk about the merits of that at a later date. I may even do a project. But the thing is this right here, dude. Do you see now that maybe moving out of Florida may not be a great idea? Do you see now that maybe it's possible that anywhere you go, you may just get judged for this? Do you see now maybe it's possible that maybe that you might be safe right where you're at, that even though the state of Florida did in fact pass these laws, which, by the way, you disagree with, which I 100% agree with, but you obviously disagree with. Do you think maybe it's possible now that in the state of Florida, because of the fact that you won 3 NBA Finals rings, 2 with LeBron, 1 with Shaq, do you think it's possible that maybe the people in Miami, the people in that area may not, do this to you on the street? They may think negatively of your decision. They may be like, you know what, man, love the center, we hate the sin. Do you think that maybe that right there might be a possibility? Do you think maybe it might be best that you stay right where you are? I did not ask or beg you to stay in the area that you're at. I didn't even advise you to do that. I'm just simply saying that it's very, very possible that maybe the people who live in the state of Florida may not be as bad as you think. And while you may disagree with the politicians, you definitely can't sit here and rag on the people. Yes, they voted for Ron DeSantis. Yes, they voted for the representatives. They obviously did that to kind of curb what the hell is going on today in this very, very woke society where men are now suddenly women and women are now suddenly men. Hell, I did a video yesterday on a lesbian dating app kicking off women who wanted to date actual lesbians. They were called TERFs and they were kicked off the site because there are obviously men up there who identify as women and come on that site. That is what the hell they do, which is really, really weird because it seems to me almost like some very, very weird conversion therapy. I'll link the video in the description box. Fact of the matter is, D Wade, you may just be better off right where you're at in your actual home, where you won those 3 rings at, where you put together those great playoff moments. You might be safer there. And while that state may not agree with that way of life or the decisions that you have made, it is also very possible that they will not kick you out of that state or treat you any negatively or treat you any differently. Yes, there are going to be people who disagree with your decision, but chances are at the end of the day, due to your recent success in that state, they're probably not going to say a whole lot about it. Then you go to New York City, right outside of Madison Square Garden. You're watching the basketball game, and you probably really want some privacy. But the fans there are obviously not going to give you any privacy. Maybe there are some Knicks fans out there who are just going to give you hell for being a former player on the Miami Heat. Maybe they're just going to give you hell for that. Maybe they're going to do that. Maybe they're going to use this right here against you. Maybe they're going to use the fact that your son was transitioning to a little girl. Maybe they're going to use that against you. Because I can already hear somebody in the chat say, "Oh my God, Claymore, you're just going off to be going off, trying to get those clicks, trying to get those views." Yeah, I'm a YouTuber. That's kind of my job. But the thing is this right here, D-Wade. The problem is that people are going to use this against you, especially people in very, very large cities. And I said before that I don't think the people in the state of Florida really and truly care. They may not like your decision, but they would say, "Hey man, why the hell did he leave here?" They would probably think it was more screwed up that you left their state, that you left a place that quite frankly you made home and you helped make great for a little while. I understand the situation about your child. I get it. Dude, I don't like it. I don't like the idea that you transition him. As a matter of fact, there is one thing I'm going to answer back to. There was a guy who left a comment in the chat about this. Where I'm not going to pull up his comment or anything like that. I'm not going to humiliate him or anything like that because he actually made an extremely good point to me. He basically said, and I'm not, like I said, names, security purposes here on this channel. He basically said to me, "You know what, dude? He still takes care of his kids. I can't really truly follow him." It's something paraphrased to that there. And my response is, well, obviously he does. Good point. But still at the same time, though, um, it's worse when you transition a child at the behest of what may have very well been your wife who had you do that. I don't know about you, but those who cut the kids' parts off or whatnot and transition them before they even know what the hell is what life is even about, I don't see how that's good parenting. I don't see that at all. I think that's actually terrible parenting. And obviously, this right is going to be used against him for the rest of his life. Now, guys, let me end this video on this note right here. I do not say this because I dislike D Wade. Now, LeBron James, I dislike. I'll give him credit for his athleticism and everything. Michael Jordan, I revere. D Wade, I like. You know, there's a lot of basketball players, a lot of athletes that I like. And of course, there are some that I dislike. It's just the way that it is. I don't say this to demean D Wade. I say this because obviously D Wade made a decision to transition his child, and obviously he is paying for it 12 different ways from Sunday. And he's obviously getting some comeuppance because he told the people in the state of Florida essentially that he wanted to leave them and leave that place because the governor passed some laws, but yet his next door neighbors probably don't even really and truly care and are still grateful that he got them 3 NBA Finals rings out of the city of Miami. That he helped make their state relevant for at least one season of the year. Of course, Florida being the tourist state, it's always relevant. Still at the same time, though, he helped make a basketball team relevant for a good period of time there. Do you guys see what I'm saying? I'm not saying this to demean D Wade. I'm actually trying to empathize with him the best I can. But dude, like I said, you transitioned your child, dude. What do you expect? People are obviously going to use this against you for the rest of your life, dude. It's just the way that it is. Either way, though, man, I mean, it is what it is. But like I said, you were probably better off, much safer, right where you were at in Miami, Florida, rather than trying to leave and go somewhere where it's very, very mean and hostile, like say New York City. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of these bigger cities are much more segregated. I've oftentimes said that the vast majority of racism in this country occurs in these very, very blue metropolitan areas. Guys, John Claymore, if you like this content, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.